Hey, this is we called it. We are going to be ranking coaching staffs today. Ken and I took a look at teams' head coaches, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, went through, graded them all, and then put them in a nice sorted order and grouped them. So we will let you know where your team ranks, whether it's good, bad, somewhere in the middle. And there is going to be, I'm sure, a lot of kind of flexibility and disagreement on this, depending on what you want from your coaches. Ken, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to tell you where you got it wrong with these coaches, and you guys should too. Comment, hashtag Phil is stupid.
so, like I was gonna say it in the intro, but I'm realizing that I put a lot of emphasis on like a coach's first 15 plays, aka the most schemed things, and their game planning. However, there's a few that I definitely am gonna get yelled at because I punish W's. And I'd say wins are coach's stats, but I would rather have the smart guy than the guy who got lucky. How did you do your rankings?
Unfortunately, there's a little bit of both as well, where I'm more of a W guy, and then I look through, and maybe I didn't give some people enough respect for a bunch of close ones, and then a few astronomically horrible games. So we'll talk about it
Yep. All right. Before that, though, big news came out today. My life's a blur because of baby time, but I believe it was today. DeAndre
today.
Hopkins went
Today,
to the Titans. All right, so DeAndre Hopkins to the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, big impacts both fantasy wise and just like on the field. Last time we saw an elite receiver was AJ Brown, and he was lighting it up. However, there was no one else. Like Ryan Tannehill can only support one valuable player at a time, is what it seems. Do you think that'll be Nuke? Do you think that'll be Treylon Burks? What do you think?
uh, so unfortunately, I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Brown are very similar types of receivers. So I
Well, not,
am
not not in terms of types, but they are both very talented.
they are both extremely talented. I'm a huge fan of both those guys. I was a huge fan in fantasy of Treylon Burks up until about 6 hours ago. I loved him as a sneaky guy. Now, like you said, there's just not. I mean, that's a Derrick Henry offense. DeAndre Hopkins definitely helps, spread him out a bit. But at the same time, I just, fantasy wise, if he went anywhere else, him and Treylon Burks could have been huge. Versus now, I mean, they certainly eat each other up a bit. But in terms of like play action setting up, getting people like open in the middle of the field or areas where they can work, I just don't think that DeAndre Hopkins is. AJ Brown was take a 12-yard like in route and take it to the house, and that's just not DeAndre Hopkins. Traylon Burke certainly has a little bit more of that. Still way too raw. Overall, good for the team. I think between those two, that good tight end that we cannot say his name,
Chris
to go with,
Okongwu or something. I'm
yeah,
so sorry.
sorry, guy. But I do not hate Tannehill. I do not hate Derrick Henry. So I love Vrabel. We'll talk about that. But at the same time, I just don't know what it does. How much it moves their team. Like, does this put them as division leaders? I don't think so. Phil, what do you think?
Like Jacksonville looked great last year, and they got better and better throughout the year. So I still think it's their division to lose. And then the Colts and the Texans were rebuilding, and the AFC is the most a way more competitive conference. You have the AFC West and the AFC East, and I don't think if the Titans were in either of those divisions, they would be top three teams, let alone so they won't push for a wild card. They're not going to push their division lead. I appreciate what they're doing and trying to, they know Tannehill's getting older, Henry's getting older, trying to build at least a winning team right now. However, I don't think it amounts to much. I think it doesn't move the needle to make them a more threatening playoff team or not. And I just think they end up second in the AFC South and then could be an 8-9 win team on the outside looking in when playoff times come, because I think you're going to have 10, 11 wins to make the wild card spots. Well, so if I was a GM, I would absolutely do the move. I'm the Titans. I'm not punting on the season. We've had success year after year after year before Tannehill got hurt last year. However, in terms of like outside the Titans, looking at the league as a whole, I'm indifferent. And then to your point, I think what's going to happen, from a fantasy perspective, PPR wise, I think DeAndre Hopkins would be the guy to go with. And then a nice guy like Treylon Burks is going to be that guy you want on your bench when you get a bad set of bye weeks and hope that he gets like a 60-yard touchdown catch or something where he breaks out, because I think he'll be their deep threat on play action. But other than that, it kind of just sours their whole team from a fantasy perspective for me. Whole passing game, sorry.
Yeah, totally agree. Talking a little bit about Derrick Henry. Hopefully, we can talk about your guys' fantasy draft last week. But
you weren't here, so you get to rip us apart.
Number one, nobody drafted Derrick Henry, so it was a bad draft. No, especially if Derrick Henry's falling like mid-second round, I'm all in on him. Like, I'm sorry, I'll take him a year too late and hope that he just doesn't fall apart, because besides his 1 foot injury, he has not fallen apart, and he's still looks good. A little creativity on the offense.
Hard not to look good when you're twice the size of the people you're running against.
All right, so Phil and Connor had a very interesting draft. You guys should go check it out. So Connor just drafted like it's a straight PPR league, and Phil drafted like it's a straight like traditional scoring league, and both of them would have killed each other in their respective leagues. But now you guys should listen to it, because Connor makes these great points, and he sounds so good as he's doing it, but then the names coming out of his mouth just do not match. Like I read through his team and I'm like, I do not like this. He went with the hero RB, passed on Christian McCaffrey in the first round, let Phil get him, and went with Ramondre Stevenson as his hero. I like Ramondre in the third, but his next running back was Antonio Gibson in the 8th. And I'm sorry, he picked his 5th receiver before his 2nd running back. And I'm sorry, like, I'm glad that he liked the names on them, but also one of them was Treylon Burks. But just not enough there. Phil seems a little more even. I like Dallas Goedert a little later. Both of them got good mid-round quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. But because of the crucial mistake of passing on Christian McCaffrey and going with a hero RB, I got to go with Phil as the winner.
That's right. When you get Christian McCaffrey with the 3rd pick because of stupid drafting, you're typically going to win against the guy who passed him up with pick 2.
And it's easier to say that because he's not here.
Yeah. Connor may be joining us. He just sent me a text, so we'll see. All right. With that, let's get into talking about coaches. For the first time, I made a pretty little... so I used to make pretty little graphics. This is a PowerPoint now. Look at this, guys. All right, I hope you guys can see it. I just shared it. Look at that. All neat and organized, pictures of the coaches. And so these rankings are going to be my opinion only. Ken can obviously weigh in on if someone's too high or who else he would put in the top groups. But this is my number 1 tier, the cream of the crop, and I don't think so. I love the Chiefs. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Andy Reid has been unstoppable since getting Patrick Mahomes. Steve Spagnuolo, I also think, has been a really underrated defensive coordinator. He took like 4 or 5 rookies on his back end last year and made it functional, won the Super Bowl with it. And, everyone's saying it can only go up. However, you should know, if you study football, defense is volatile. So who knows if those rookies turn over again. However, every time he is not given much and he makes it work. Chris Jones is the only signature player he has. And still, year after year after year, the Chiefs don't have an abysmal defense. It might not be good, but it's, at least average and makes plays at the right time. So my number 2 is the Giants. Now, this is one I get that if anyone wants to argue with, but I'm a believer that roster was a bottom 3, 5, or 5 roster last year. And Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale did a fantastic job. Got them to the playoffs and a playoff victory. And then lastly, boy genius at 3rd, Kyle Shanahan. He's listed as the OC. I gave him an A+ for being an OC, but an A- for being a coach. I don't think anyone's going to question how he makes some dumb decisions in the middle of games, timeouts, game management type of stuff. However, he is so smart that they have guys coming out of nowhere making huge plays on offense, and they can use Mr. Irrelevant as their quarterback and make him look fantastic. So, Ken, that's my top 3. What do you like? What don't you like?
So let me start. We both had the same top with Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid. Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes. It's just hard to go against him. Yes, if you take him off the team, you know you try to dissect like that. But Andy Reid was successful beforehand, and he just went up another notch with a generational quarterback. Um, no, nothing wrong there. I think they're like you said, their defense has done a ton with like the limited like talent or not putting a ton of investment there. I had to disagree with you here on the Giants. I think I had Dable. I couldn't put him in the single digits. Like I have him all the way down at 10. And yes, as we were talking beforehand, this is a team that I know I should like better. Yes, they won. They did not have the best roster. With that being said, I just thought that so many games were, I don't want to say fluky, but um, most NFL games are one score games, but they just kept winning against or with them. And then they played the exact same team first round in the playoffs in the Vikings. And obviously it was a close one, but I cannot get that Eagles playoff game out of my head. That was not a game. That was a warm up for the Eagles. And it wasn't, I mean, they got a bye and then they had the Giants. They essentially had two buys. That game was
And then
hard.
they got third string Brock Purdy with the torn UCL. So they got three buys to the Super Bowl.
It was hard to watch. And yes, now first off, that's his first year being a head coach there. Should I really, hit him that hard for it? No. Saquon looked as good as ever. He certainly got the most out of Daniel Jones that you could ever ask for. Daniel Jones will be thanking him 40 million times over the next few years. But I didn't think it was very repeatable. Really, it's just the 1 year mark on it, 1 year record, and it's like I want to see it some more before I put you all the way up, in the top five. So I had him there at 10.
All right. So let's go on then to my next group. All right. So good, but something to show. That means I really like the majority of your staff, but you're just missing one little thing. So we'll run through this. The Ravens just brought in Todd Monken. I remember Todd Monken being the OC for the Browns, the Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr. first year, and that just went poorly. Then he went to Georgia, looked phenomenal. I'll give him that. However, the NFL is a different game. So we will see if he can recreate that success in what is now a college stylish offense. You have a lot of speed. You're going to be using Lamar Jackson in the open field. So spread it out, let it fly. We'll see if he can keep it up. But again, there's a question mark there, so I can't put him in tier one. Then you have the Steelers. Matt Canada, Connor, when he's here, he is always laughing his butt off at Matt Canada and the terribly called Pittsburgh Steelers games. So I have to punish them. Mike Tomlin always comes out, has an above 500 record though, plays great defense, and so I'm giving him respect there. I believe they'll keep winning, however, until their offense fixes their structure issue. Nothing's going to get better.
All right.
Denver
I gotta
Broncos.
cut you.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
gotta cut you off here with these two. Yeah, maybe I'm just a bit of we'll say a homer here because I watched these two teams spank the Browns in and out twice a year over the last 15 years. But first off, uh, the Harbaugh and Tomlin have been around since I think '07 and '08 for each team. Like there is some longevity here, and Mike Tomlin, 16 straight winning seasons. That is incredible. I don't think you are giving him enough credit there. Okay, I certainly did this more on just the head coach than looking at the coordinators. But yes, we talk about the NFL, but the very last time we saw Todd Monken, his team had one close game in the last 2 years in college football, and uh, and yes, one of them was against Ohio State, but I'm sorry, completely steamrolled him, and you're really giving him a lot of hate for not winning with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback. And I will tell you, there's been a lot of teams that haven't won with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback over just the last year. So I'm not. gonna hate on them too much for that.
Yeah, it's not like he had like the best defensive players of like the last like 50 years, 2 years ago that Georgia defense was literally like all drafted in the first round, and then this year again was phenomenal. So
We're talking about the
I,
offense, Phil.
I understand, but it's very easy for your offense to look good when they have a short field and they don't give up points. That's why you win blowouts. All right. Anyways, I said he's good. They're ranked 4th on my list. Anyways, next two.
I had them. I had Pittsburgh or Tomlin at 2 and Harbaugh at 3. So a little bit higher, but a tier up.
Close.
But a tier up.
Denver Broncos. So I am a huge fan of Sean Payton. I always liked him in New Orleans. He was always that guy that he coached up and down to his opponents. Unfortunately, that leads to a few losses in games you should win, but it also means you can take on the best of the best competition, and he's going to have the Chargers and the Chiefs four games. If he can go 2-2 in those games, that's a big win, and I think, huge for their team in terms of turning around everything. Hi, Connor. Thank you for coming
Connor.
in. We'll have you catch up on the teams we already talked about in a minute. Joe Lombardi, though. So now he was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. I hated him there because he did not use his talent appropriately. I think his scheme, though, will match much better with what Sean Payton wants to do in Denver. So I graded him a bit higher because I think in terms of matching OC to head coach, that works a lot better here. Vance Joseph got a head coaching job previously from the defensive coordinator spot. I trust him to manage that just fine. Then lastly, Jacksonville. Doug Peterson, dude. He is one of the craftiest offensive minds. He comes up with stuff out of nowhere. He makes, he maximizes what he gets out of his players. So I love Jacksonville. I am not a fan of their defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell, but when you have your offense humming the way he does with all the talent and figuring out stuff, I just think he's the guy that can absolutely go through, challenge the Chiefs. They did that in the playoffs, come up with that huge upset against the Chargers, can always pull stuff out of his sleeves left and right. So that's the Broncos and Jaguars. Connor, you go first. What do you think about those takes?
Which ones? The ones that are on my screen or the ones that you just said?
The Broncos and Jacksonville. The ones I said.
By far, I think Sean Payton is, I think he's better than Doug Peterson, but that was old Sean Payton. This is just uncharted waters, truthfully, and people forget that. Like, these are guys think Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin, and then was tied to Mike Tomlin and Bill Cowher. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cowher before that. Okay. It's one and it's one and this and not either or. So how do we know Sean Payton is anything outside of Drew Brees? They are hand in hand. Do we think that it's, potentially and probably going to be just fine with him and Russell? Yes. But we don't know. I have no idea. I would say statistics would say that it's going to be fine and they'll probably be really good. But what do we know right now? We know that Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence are probably, you talk about fantasy football assets. You want to get players on the rise before they pop. Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence are there for me. So they are the ones to buy into right now. There's a less unknown. They get better talent this year. They just signed Evan Ingram to a spicy deal, which fine. Call it whatever you want. They're spending money. The con is out there blowing money fast. And I would choose Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence over Russ Wilson and Sean Payton right now.
So my tiebreaker there was defensive coordinators, and I trusted Vance Joseph more. However, it's a tiebreaker. 6-7, same tier. I don't care. Ken, what do you think?
Especially if we're going and talking about Trevor Lawrence. Only thing I gotta say about Connor's point is they might have already popped, man. Like, Trevor Lawrence is just it's on fire. He's hot right now, guys. So hot right now.
Look at that. That Hansel's so hot right now.
But no. I had Sean Payton down at 12, mainly because exactly what Connor said. I don't know what we're getting into. There's no Drew Brees on that team. Russell Wilson, they're both short. That's it. I'm sorry, I can't give it to them. But brand new team. That team looked, I mean, like a dumpster fire last year. We'll see what happens versus Jacksonville, completely on the up and up. Doug Peterson, by the way, 5-3 as a playoff head coach, won Super Bowl, beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I'm sorry, not going to hate on them. I actually have them up. I should have put them a little higher in my list. They should be right around top 5.
All right, so I just want to say something about playoff wins. People always bring it up as a stat, but you do realize that everyone in a given year is going to have at least only one coach is going to have more wins than losses in a playoff year, and that's the guy who wins the Super Bowl. Everyone else at best will be 500 because
you want to say that?
I guess the second tier.
No. Let's get to your next tier, and then we'll talk a little more about playoff.
Well, here's one last point.
No. But my point is, there is it is a lot of teams lose, and there's less. You can't be like, oh, the Patriots for years had free wins coming in from their division. Well, when you're in the playoffs, it's like half the teams lose each round, and that's half the teams against the good teams. So I hate when people. It's a Skip Bayless thing. Really bothers me. Aaron Rodgers at 7-11 in the playoffs ain't bad,
Okay, here, you know what? Go to your next tier.
No, all right. So Connor, we're gonna interrupt Ken and break his flow, and we're gonna go back to the first tier and let me know what you think of these guys. I was clicking on the wrong screen.
Well,
there you go.
Let me just say the last thing about Denver, and I'll say this: you have to remember, they hemorrhaged the next decade of their team for two people, Sean Payton and Russ Wilson. And when I say that, I mean they put it all out there. And because you got to remember, they also hemorrhaged their roster for that wide receiver core. They paid them dudes a lot of money. The only one they haven't paid is probably their best receiver, potentially. He's still a question mark. He's this year's CeeDee Lamb, and that's Jerry Jeudy. And I'm serious. This has to work. So there is a little bit of added element that, what's going to happen is Sean's going to have a longer leash than Russ. Russ struggles this year. You watch. I know they're tied to him, but within the next 18 months, you'll have a serious question mark on whether or not they'll take somebody in next year's draft.
All right. So now, Connor, we're going to do cliff notes on the teams we talked about. Here's my tier 1. These are full coaching staff rankings. What do you think? Now, Ken said the Giants are the ones that don't belong. I don't blame him, but I think we all know my love for Brian.
They don't belong. I mean, doing more with less is...
That's why I picked them, because they made the playoffs and won a playoff game with nothing.
Doing more than less or doing more with less. I wonder... There's a difference between being the underdog and being the lead dog. So I'll say that. Meaning being the underdog and overperforming where you are versus being at the front and still killing everybody. That's Andy Reid. So there is a little bit of a difference there. So I would flip the two. I would say at a minimum, at best, Dable is 3, because now you get to see him from the front. This will be more telling. Shanahan has been there in the past too, and so he's been in the front. So he did well, 2 years ago, beat Dallas in the playoffs, overachieved, came back and basically was playing 10 on 11, and I wouldn't say kept it competitive because they got their break speed off of them by the Eagles, but
missing a quarterback is not 10 on 11, man. It's like 11 on 4.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you're basically running the triple option with no quarterback. So, I would say Dable overperformed. Doug Peterson technically overperformed probably last year too. It's just different leading from the front. So I would say it would go 1, 3, 2 in this order.
Okay. I say you'd probably put Giants lower, but whatevs.
I would put them lower, but I'm saying, again,
based
on what you have on the screen.
Yep. All right, so now here's the next 4. You had already seen these, but the Ravens and the Steelers, what do you think at 4 or 5?
I had Tomlin higher, just so he was number 2 for me.
I'd flip 4 and 5. Just
So
because
hold the phone. You hate Matt Canada, and he is still
I hate
the
Matt
offensive
Canada.
coordinator.
This is head coaching. Are we doing coaching staff or head coaches?
Staff. All of them.
Fine.
I also
mean,
just did head coach.
I
The spreadsheet has all of them listed.
listen.
Extra data points.
I have been not around all day today, so
I
head
respect it.
coaches. Got it. I
Because all I have is their names up here. I don't have the team. I have.
because I don't know anything about Monken right now. I don't know anything about Monken. Is his
Exactly,
air raid
that's-
offense going to work?
That's why he's not in the top tier. That was my point earlier.
Fine, but I would also say that Kenny Pickett's not it, guys. So Matt Canada is also limited there. Do I like the way that Matt Canada runs it? No, he runs it like the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, I'm so pissed about that. I don't even want to talk about that. Just shoot me. I am so mad because I was dying on a hill with Traylon Burks, and here we are. So
That's all right.
Anyway.
We'll have a nice funeral.
yeah. And then 6-7. I told you. I think Peterson probably. I would probably put Peterson all the way up at. I'd probably put him at 5.
All right, let's take a look at what we got here now. Oh, tier 3. Okay, so I named this. It's all about the W's. Now these guys, they're older. Well, not all of them, but they've just been winning. There sometimes you watch it, you have no idea how. And Bill Belichick, super established. We'll start with the Patriots. Obviously, super established in name. They had a bad year last year because him as a general manager, if we were ranking GMs, he would be at the bottom of the list. He keeps screwing up players. He keeps screwing up coaches. But now we got a real offensive coordinator. So I believe in the Patriots to bounce back, outsmart some teams, and overachieve with their roster, which still makes it like an 8 or 9 win team. So even though this might not be a playoff caliber team, in my opinion, I still think, they're gonna win enough games for Bill Belichick to be seen as respectful. What do you guys think? Oh, huge on Bill O'Brien is my main point here. I think he showed that he's a good offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Great question, Phil. So I'm just going to pull up a few playoff records here because that's exactly what we're talking. You're right. It is really hard to win the playoffs. Sean Payton, he's 9-8, still a great coach. Mike Tomlin, 8-9, losing record, still a good coach.
If you say anything about Bill Belichick, I'm just going to delete it because we all know why.
9-8, 9-8, still good. The only one who even comes relatively close to second place is Andy Reid at 22-16. Wow. And then, somebody is 31-13. I'm sorry. It is a statistical anomaly. Doesn't explain it. Oh, Phil, I know he's getting all red. But
they had Tom Brady.
But Phil, I thought you said wins are not a quarterback stat. We have talked about this in depth. But 31-13 is so. Like you said, 500 is hard. And he is almost 20 games above 500 in the playoffs. I'm sorry. It's
okay.
Only
So,
are
we getting 2005 Bill Belichick, or is this 2008 Bill Belichick? Huh? Or is this 2023 70-year-old Bill Belichick who still wants to run the ball and not throw it?
Ramondre Stevenson will be thankful for that. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, I forgot to tell you guys, I traded him for T. Higgins. Even though I love Ramondre.
That's a
sorry.
good trade.
But yes, respect Bill Belichick. Yes, 31-13 means he's been in the NFL a long time. I have him slightly higher, but they went, what was it last year? They went 8-9 without an offensive coordinator, which, yes, that's a big issue. It's just the fact that they decided that Joe Judge and who was the other one? The defensive coordinator. Matt Patricia can just, for some reason, work with a second-year quarterback. Yes, with all that aside.
Also, remember, Matt Patricia, by the way, the 6 seasons before that, he was A, a head coach, and B, a defensive coordinator. And Bill was like, hey, you want to do offense, kind of? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so not that was the smartest move, but long story short, respect Bill Belichick. 10-7 and 8-9. last 2 years without Tom Brady and with that complete shit show of a roster and other coaching staff. Also, once again, I was going by head coaches, so I had him a little higher.
All right, I
No
got
respect,
one for you.
Phil.
Just
No
quick
respect.
question. Totally not
Go
on this
ahead.
topic. I'm changing gears because I don't
T.
care what Phil
Higgins or
Hunt
Ramondre Stevenson, go.
Well, that was fun because, by the way, we'll talk about grading that trade later. But who is better this year? Mike Tomlin and Kenny Pickett or Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien?
Kenny Pickett, Mike Tomlin.
Dude, I don't know.
Wait,
man. I hope Kenny
who's
Pickett.
going to win more games? Because
I think it's going to be who's going to win more games.
Win more games and like just look better. Like you can usually tell, like who would you want to play less, kind of thing.
Or throw in Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel.
Ryan Tannehill, Mike Vrabel, number one.
That just makes
honestly,
me so mad. It's upsetting.
Well, they're like they have they're gonna. These are all teams that are like 8 or 9 win teams. I hate looking at.
I saw a crazy stat. They are, but I also saw a crazy stat. Tennessee Titans have not had a wide receiver get more than 112 targets since 2015. How terrible is that? What are you going to do? The Tennessee Titans, like they just got one of the best, like probably veteran wide receivers that can still demand targets, and they have a young stud, and they are going to still run the ball 100 times a game.
You
and
do not want Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball 25 times, though.
Dude, you got to do something, man. Like, this is going to be just, like, that's Andre Johnson, Randy Moss, all those guys go there to die. And it's just making me so upset.
You can tell. You just keep, it's one of those
I've
things
been
like.
thinking about it all day because I traded for Traylon Burks in Dynasty.
All right. Anything else on the Patriots?
Just disrespect by you. That's it.
Bill also said that he's on the. He is potentially. Bill is potentially. He has said that he is. He was quoted last week as saying that he is coaching for his job this year.
Yeah.
Who's going to fire him? Himself?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think that Kraft is going to fire him? No way.
All right, next up, Los Angeles Rams. I feel like Sean McVay, I personally don't think he comes up with the craziest adjustments to his offensive game plans, but they seem to work. And he can't adjust mid-game. He can't make adjustments during the year. But, you know, when he pivoted to throw the ball to Cooper Kupp 100 times a game, it works. So I'm not questioning it. I like Raheem Morris. I think he's a real good defensive coordinator. Mike LaFleur was successful as the Jets OC, so I don't know what they're going to do, but this is just another guy who I think is going to get enough W's. They're going to look okay, and again, this tier just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't think they have, as of this today, no longer 2005 Bill Belichick. I don't think these guys have the gusto and the ingenuity to take their teams over the top. However, happy to have them if I was a fan there.
Only issue with the Rams is like, what is left of that team? They started, getting rid of everything. Did you guys see the thing where it's like they tried to get rid of Matt Stafford this offseason? And their team is Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald at this point. It's just, I feel like it's falling apart. There just might not be enough talent there to win. I do like Sean McVay. By the way, he's the only other one with the 7-3 record in the playoffs that really stood out. But it just, what's there for it? The whole fact he was looking at time to step away from football, and he's going to retire, and he's 40 years old. That's just not
35. Come on, good for him.
Oh, yeah. But that's all I got there.
They're also going to be sellers. They're going to be sellers. They've already indicated that if they're not in the playoff hunt at the midpoint of the season, they're going to be sellers. They're going to blow it all up. They have to.
Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp to the Browns.
They have two pieces to sell. When it's two, I mean, it's like them and then
it's
absolutely nothing. Yeah, you're just talking about Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to be sellers. But okay, McVay is he is less team proof. I know that's a weird thing to say. Meaning he has to be situation proof. I think he hit the perfect, like everything lined up with Matt Stafford in his prime, tailing out of his prime, but best statistical season, best defense, all lining up perfectly for their Super Bowl. And then you see what happens when the wheels fall off.
I mean, I give him a lot of credit for the turnaround job he did the day he walked on the field the field to coach. Like remember the Rams were the biggest joke. They couldn't move the ball offensively. They kept the same players, and then he brought his system in. And I know obviously teams have adapted since then, but at least he flipped things. He hasn't made many adjustments, but the adjustments he's made, I mean, he's been to 2 Super Bowls. So, but anyways, let's go on now. Detroit Lions. Our favorite team, Ben Johnson, should have absolutely gotten a head coaching
clip
job.
This, by the way, you better clip this for those boys out in Detroit. You better clip it and tag them.
But Ben Johnson, by far, top 2 or 3 offensive coordinator. He is phenomenal. They are so lucky he did not want a head coaching job, and he wanted to stick it through and see what this Lions team can accomplish. Only penalty I have against them right now is I like Dan Campbell. He doesn't blow my mind in terms of game management or scheme. And then defensively, they've been absolutely nothing. So I'm giving Aaron Glenn a hard punishment, saying, I know you revamped your defense with so many cornerbacks and bringing in a lot of players, but I got to see it. I got to see it before I give you a reward. That's why they're here at 10 instead of higher up. Connor, do you want to go first on this?
Oh, Dan. Listen, he's the new Bruce Arians. He is the guy that is like the ringmaster. You know, he's the marionettes up top, but he is not the guy that's like calling the shots. That's Ben Johnson, and that's the problem, I think, in terms of their coaching staff. He's trusting that Aaron Glenn guy can figure it out because he's got Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. Aaron Glenn, he's like, hey, we kind of figured it out after you sucked when we were 2-6 or whatever. Ben Johnson like took off. Aaron Glenn kind of had some flashes, and he's like, hey, I didn't fire you. Let's just, do the best and get you a ton of good guys. You got some pieces there. You got rid of Jeff Okudah. Fine. Got some picks. Now it's going to be, all right, clearly it's you, buddy, if it's not going to be me or Ben Johnson, because it's not Ben Johnson.
No.
I'm saying Arians because Bruce Arians would be the first to tell you he was not. I don't even think he called the plays. I think Byron Leftwich called the plays, did he not?
Yeah, or they split it.
Fine, but Leftwich, like 2 years ago when they won it, was more or less involved heavily in the offense. He kind of delegated to him. Campbell has to do the same thing. Great motivator. Quirky, weird, stupid sayings that kind of can connect with the younger guys. That's fine. That's all good when it works. And I think it does. You showed in the second half of the season. You got people bought in. Being a motivator is half the battle.
Well, I mean, when this team was a joke, they played hard for him. That was the team we were betting on the first year you and I were talking, and it was like, bet these guys to cover because they're going to play hard for their coach. They're going to lose, but it's fine.
They covered. Yep. They were like, whatever. They had one of the best records against the spread last year, just like across the board. Yep. And the year before. So he's probably about right. If we're looking ahead, I would probably say that I would have the Eagles over there just because Sirianni, but to your point, he wiped out his whole team, so they're probably about right.
Yeah, Ken, what do you think on the Lions?
Well, I just was listening to something today and they were talking about Jahmyr Gibbs and how much Dan Campbell loves him. Now, first off, David Montgomery is the exact running back that Dan Campbell wanted. And then you got this guy, half of his size, double the speed. And
dude, are you a David Montgomery truther? Please tell me you're not. The most average dude in the NFL, and you're like, yeah, that guy.
Jamal Williams had 17 touchdowns last year for this team. How many
times did Sun God get stopped at the 1 for that to happen?
My point being, though, is that like David Montgomery is a 4 yards and a cloud of dust running back. That is it. Emphasis on the cloud of dust. But the fact that Dan Campbell's come out saying he loves Jahmyr Gibbs, this finesse fastback. Number one, just watch out. I'm starting to jump on the Jahmyr Gibbs fantasy train here.
You're gonna get him in the second or third round? Come on.
I'm getting him in the 5th every single time. 7th in your non PPR leagues, Phil. But
stupid, by the way.
Anyways, I don't know. I like the Lions. Why not? Love Dan Campbell.
So for fans' sake, we're at 40 minutes and we're past the top 10, so we're going to pick up the pace on these. Eagles, they're this low only because they lost their offensive and defensive coordinator. I got nothing else to say. That I don't know how much to trust the new guys they're bringing in.
Okay, did you see Nick Sirianni bawling his eyes out during the national anthem at the Super Bowl? He immediately, for like 5 minutes there, jumps to number 1 on my list.
Oh my goodness.
And then when he lost the Super Bowl, how far did he go? Because he had that playoff loss now.
Sirianni's also the guy
that playoff loss
talks trash to fans. Like, he's just a weird.
In Philly, you have to. You have to. I mean,
that's crazy. It's because he has Mount Union ties. He went to Mount Union. His Larry Karras is a guy. So I played against Mount Union for 4 years. Phil and I obviously went to Otterbein, so we know Mount Union very, very well. They smoked us for 4 years. Actually, ironically, Sirianni and Brandon Staley and Sirianni, I think, were around. So Staley was at John Carroll, and Sirianni was at Mount Union when I played at Otterbein. So both of those guys have been involved in arm's length away from both of us. So
what Connor's saying is he played against these NFL level coaches and got absolutely destroyed.
Smoked. Did not. I remember Staley came up to me afterwards because he was the defensive coordinator. Obviously, it didn't click then because he wasn't famous then. But it was against John Carroll, and he was like, he told their wide receiver coach to come. Actually, he was like, "Hey, what year are you?" I'm like, "I'm a sophomore." And their wide receiver coach was like, "Hey, we want you to come play up here." And I was like, "Why would I do that?" And then also, John Carroll was like really, really, really good when I was there too. So they beat Mount Union the year after we left, which is the first time in, I think it was like 13 years that they lost a regular season game. So
that's crazy.
Bad decision by me. Could have been better. I could have went to John Carroll, but I didn't.
Could have had connections to Brandon Staley and had him on our show. And
Brandon
everything.
Staley, BFFs, hanging out. He's calling you, trying to get you to come over. I got you.
It's
trying
weird,
to get
man.
you on the Chargers.
I keep getting this call from Southern California. I keep ignoring it, but that might be it. That might be it.
All right. Tennessee Titans. I feel like we talk about Vrabel all year long. I don't know how much more to say besides, like, dude's going to coach up to, he's going to have a couple great upsets, and then he's going to, not have the talent to win elsewhere. So
he's going to keep D-Hop in check, man. He's going to keep D-Hop in check. He's going to play for him. He's going to play hard.
D-Hop and Treylon Burks. No one can have 1,000 yards. That's the rule.
Who is their offensive coordinator? Because I need to find out who he is and just like blackmail him.
Tim Kelly.
Who is that? Is he like the tight ends coach?
I'll tell you what, dude. Tim Kelly is a famous guy because he was the offensive coordinator of the Texans and then the passing game coordinator for the Titans. So, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
What are you doing?
Can you imagine having Derrick Henry and promoting your passing game coordinator? Like, you're the reason we're winning games.
So stupid. I just makes me so mad. They got a new GM too. That basically came out and said, Golden State Warriors football is the same as like the Chiefs offense. It's like, it's great until you hit the playoffs. I'm like, that might be one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard. It was something along those lines.
What's that, 4 or 5 straight AFC championship games going through Kansas City? Like, I can't remember.
Running the football wins games in the playoffs. And I'm like, dude, this guy's stuck in like 30 years ago, and he's your GM.
Yeah, dude, that 38-35 Super Bowl would have been better if people just ran the ball.
That's why Tim Kelly is the offensive coordinator.
Would have been better for Philly.
That's true. Next up, tier 4, one step from tier 2. I say that because I think these 3 teams, they are all smart. They all have glaring flaws. And the only thing that keeps them outside of tier 3 is the fact that they don't win, I guess, to the expectations they should. So the Browns, obviously, I think, come out, and I thought they've always looked good in the first 3 quarters, even last year, but crumbled in the fourth. Joe Woods is someone I talked about throughout the year, just like tanking games with terrible defense in the fourth. So I am very high. They replaced him with Jim Schwartz. That's a huge deal. So I'm just loving what the Browns did. What do you guys think?
I'll let Connor go.
I can't. I just.
What?
This is such a homer thing. You did this on purpose.
I've been on Stefanski's side.
The Bengals have a better coaching staff, and you put them intentionally behind the Browns.
Whoa.
You talked to King before this and said, hey, watch this.
Lou Anarumo is a better defensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo is my number one
King, just admit to me that that's what you did. Just tell me.
No.
Just tell me the truth.
I said
no,
Lou
we didn't talk about this. No.
Listen. The Bengals defensive coordinator is the best defensive coordinator in the league. Lou Anarumo, he's fantastic. I love him so much. He's the only guy I know that he's the only guy I know that consistently stops the Chiefs. Like, and by stops, I mean like he holds them under, he keeps his offense in the game. Now, we hate Zach Taylor. I think Zach Taylor is the worst thing to happen to Joe Burrow. So I believe Kevin Stefanski. Hey, you know what? And if Joe Burrow likes him, then they should keep him. Keep Joe Burrow happy. But Kevin Stefanski has been given nothing. Absolutely. Like, he was given Baker Mayfield, turned it into, like, he looked good with Baker Mayfield for a year. And then we all saw how bad Baker really is. He was given Jacoby Brissett, and Jacoby Brissett looked good. The Browns had, like, a top 8 offense through, like, half the season. And then it all tanked because you can only do so much. This is the year. Deshaun Watson's breaking out. I believe I am way higher on Kevin Stefanski than everyone should be. I admit it. All right? Kevin Stefanski, Brian Dable. Those are my guys.
So, Connor, nobody complains about Zach Taylor more than you. So, I don't know.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that. But I would say across the board, you're getting an old Jim Schwartz who got fired clearly from his last job. And you're at least have a guy named Anarumo or whatever, Lou Anarumo, who is a dog that should have gotten the Cardinals job. I'm going to go ahead and say Zach Taylor and Stefanski are a wash because I don't like Stefanski that much either. Wash them both. Who's left? If you're talking about full coaching staffs, Mr. Phil, who said that's the rules.
Mm-hmm. I want Alex Van Pelt over Brian Callahan. Offensive coordinator. That's the tiebreaker now.
I've been doing head coaches this whole time, and I'll tell you, I just like realism here. Last year was a throwaway. They went all in on a guy who wasn't there for 12 games. I'm sorry, it was a throwaway.
Thank you.
It is all or nothing. Year. Stefanski could get fired this year. Zach Taylor's not getting fired. I don't care what happens in Cincy.
And you know what? And you know what this is? This is called. We called it because I'm calling my shot. I'm the underdog, the guy who's on the hot seat to break out, lead the Browns to the playoffs, and Deshaun Watson to being ahead of Jalen Hurts in the MVP votes through 9
All right,
weeks.
stick your flag in the ground right now. Who's better records, the Bengals or the Browns this year? Stick your flag in the ground.
Okay, I need to look at the schedule. I seriously do.
Connor, I like Stefanski, but I really can't jump on Phil's bandwagon here. He's going way over the top. I'm sorry.
I am way over the top by saying the Browns are going to be the second best team in their division. They will contend for the division title.
Well, I like McCarthy in Miami.
This is the first year I've ever been this high on the Browns, by the way. Every year they had Baker, I said they sucked. Every year.
You're a homer. You're a homer.
The guy.
I'm sorry.
Oh, this is the first time I'm high on the Browns. The first time.
So Mike McDaniel in Miami, I've got to tell you, I really like what he did with that offense. He just went all in on speed. It looked amazing. I think it really played to his strengths. Everything except for cold weather. When cold weather really stopped him. Also,
right, that's the problem, though. You get half your games in cold weather.
Not this year for Miami. They literally booked it. They are in like 2 outdoor games, and it's the first half of the year. or 2 like cold weather ones. The rest of them were in Miami. But I don't know. If Tua can stay healthy, like I think that we're talking Miami, like as a whole team jumping up a tier. I mean, contending for that division, which doesn't sound as fancy, except for that is a damn good division. But no. I like McDaniel. I like him more than both the other team quarterbacks in this tier.
I personally, I like Mike McDaniel. I want to see him innovate off the Kyle Shanahan offense. And when I say that, I just mean like people are going to adapt to him next year, and I hope that he can put another layer to it. And I did not see that he could do that this year. Now, for the Dolphins' favor, they brought in Vic Fangio for defense. So I think that defense is going to be a million times better. So, moving on.
And yet you don't have them above the Browns or the Bengals.
I don't. I like. All right, so the Bengals have obviously had more success than Mike McDaniel. And you're going to tell me that I need to put them ahead because they had one okay year at 9-8, but Kevin Stefanski has a playoff win. With a lesser roster at
Kevin
that time.
Stefanski. I'm just telling you, I do not believe in Kevin Stefanski.
I'm just saying the guy has been around 500, and you're saying Mike McDaniel automatically should be ahead of him, despite doing the exact same thing. So I'm just not buying that.
This should be Cincinnati, Miami, Cleveland. I'm just telling you that right now.
All right, and when the Browns are looking good 9 weeks in,
plant your flag.
Deshaun Watson.
Your flag.
All right, so all right, the field I am standing on is Deshaun Watson is ahead of Jalen Hurts in MVP odds halfway through the year. That means the Browns are winning and their offense is looking good.
Will or they won't have a better record.
I am not betting against the Bengals not going like 14-3 because that could easily happen. So
where's he?
Like the Bengals are awesome.
Where's Deshaun Watson gonna be versus Joe Burrow in the MVP standings?
I am not like you're gonna ask me to say Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes aren't 1 and 2 is never gonna happen. Those are the top tier guys. I am not.
You could say Josh Allen.
I believe in Joe Burrow.
Lamar.
I'm holding this against Zach Taylor because I believe in Joe Burrow, not Zach Taylor.
They just need to be like in competitive games. Because if he does that, then he'll just let Joe Burrow be Joe Burrow. He just needs to act like he's playing the Chiefs all the time. Every day.
All right. So now I'm curious what you guys think about this. I put big names with mild brains because it sounded catchy. Cowboys, Seahawks, Packers. These guys are all teams that, renowned big names, Mike McCarthy, Pete Carroll, Matt LaFleur. And I can say the same thing about all of them. They all, in my opinion, underachieve based on their expectations. Seahawks obviously didn't last year. They looked better, but in years past, they had underachieved. So I am just going to hold that against them. I don't think Pete Carroll is the ultimate like lack of innovation guy. 3rd down and short or 4th down and short, he's never going to go for it. 3rd down and like 9, he's going to run a draw and just punt. So I am out on Pete Carroll. I believe Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, is why they were so successful last year. But anyways, Cowboys and Packers, it's all the same story. Overrated coaches.
We all completely just threw Seattle out the window last year, and they made us look silly. And I don't think you're giving Pete Carroll. And we're all like, okay, Pete Carroll's ready to retire. I don't know why he isn't retired yet. Turns out it's because he can still coach. I'm sorry. I don't know. You're going to give credit to Geno Smith for what they did. I don't know. And Phil, we're doing
let's just talk about what they did, right? They started out 6-3, looked solid, and then they ended 3-4, beating the Rams in overtime to make the playoffs. And remember who the Rams were starting? I think Connor quoted it last week as Ken Call was the starting quarterback.
Ken Wofford. Ken Wofford was starting.
So I am. They beat. Yeah, their only 2 wins after 2 of their 3 wins after week 10 came against the Rams, and that was the Rams with like corpses walking around. So I am not giving them credit for being good. They started off way better than they should, and then they fell off a cliff.
Geno Smith's passer rating Geno Smith's passer rating went up literally 50 points, his like average to what he did last year. And
Yes.
You're giving.
Oh, and did someone say he gives all the credit for their success to Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator? Man, that was a really good point by whoever said it.
Wow, he's part of their coaching staff, which I guess we're ranking right now. Oh,
yeah,
their
but
defense
he doesn't deter,
actually didn't look too bad.
Yeah, but you weighed
for
it with
being
the other
complete
components.
trash that it was. Oh, okay.
You weighed it with the other
Phil,
components, and the offensive coordinator doesn't get the most weight.
Just put it over Dallas, Phil. People in Dallas already hate you.
I hate
just
McCarthy.
don't know why you did that.
Listen, I would purely
Dan
based
quit.
off of purely. Okay, you're talking about this is lopsided here. McCarthy sucks. He's going to be calling the plays this year. Dan Quinn should have left when he had the chance because he's going to be holding up that entire roster. This is going to be like Pete Carroll's good, but like he's like him and Mike Vrabel are from the same like era, and then you have Tariq Woolen. You have two good corners on the other side. They're going to play, whoever their defensive coordinator is. They can't stop the run, but they've got decent secondary. They've got a linebacker playing safety who is just a moron. I mean, like, he's good, but, like, he's better as a linebacker than a safety, but you paid him $1 billion. You got tons of weapons. That's a whole mishmash. Like, the whole Seattle team, all of Dallas, both of those you could see them sneak into the playoffs, or they could both be firing their coaches by the end of the year because they're sub 500. That's the truth for both of those teams. Even Green Bay. LaFleur's got a problem on his hands, and that is, man, life without Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, you don't have a ton. I mean, you've got good guys. No, great guys on the offense. I mean, you got a problem. And, I don't know anything. You're going from, here's the thing that kind of, I'm jumping all around from all three of these on the screen here, but the Green Bay Packers have a big problem, which is super duper crazy slow tempo, slowest offense in the NFL, bottom 5 in pace of play, number of plays, every statistical category. Hall of Famer, you're going to turn that up. You're going to take it out of Love's hands as much as possible. You're not giving him the keys, which means you have to call the plays. You are going to read the defense for him. You have a big problem is because A, you haven't had to do that, sans Aaron Rodgers, and B, you got a problem because if he can't do it, just tank it and start over. So I don't know. I'm staying away from the Packers. We're betting a little bit on Aaron Rodgers' legacy here and what's left of it, and I'm out on LaFleur. I just don't want anything to touch. I don't want to touch him at all.
I should have punished LaFleur harder. I agree. I don't like him, but I didn't, and here we are. But he's a big name with a mild brain, and that's how he got put in this tier.
Listen, dude, we could also say the same thing about old Dingus Brain. What's his name? Oh, the dude that got through 14 games for Denver, and then was like Aaron Rodgers.
Hackett.
Yeah, Hackett. Listen, is LaFleur Hackett? That could really happen this year. And somehow that dude ended up with a job again. Stupid Jets.
Because of Aaron Rodgers.
Because
Aaron Rodgers and Kyrie Irving, dude.
I can't wait for them to make one playoff game and then lose in the first round. That's going to be awesome. I love it.
All right. That covers all the slides I have because I didn't make slides for everyone. I ran out of time. Anyways, I'm going to just pull up. If you guys have any comments on like the last, this is our Google sheet. If you have any comments on, you guys can each pick one team from Buffalo Bills and down. And my team is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders.
Have the Bills that low.
Well, it's because Sean McDermott has constantly had a better team than everyone and pissed it away. It just makes me angry. Like, that's not the team I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Raiders. And listen, why am I talking about the Raiders? Because they went through and they gave Josh McDaniels such a terrible contract, they couldn't get out of it, and then they had to rip their team to shreds, got rid of their quarterback and star tight end in order to accommodate Josh McDaniels, and they made themselves demonstrably worse. Now, the running back's holding out. I can't wait for this just to continue to blow up in their face, them to be a 5-win team and have to just gut everything they have because they just can't make decisions. And their The people they bought into are terrible, except for Devontae Adams, who I am very sorry that you ended up a Raider. So, if you guys have anything to say on the Raiders, or Ken, you can pick a team and whatever you want to say about them. I don't care.
I'm going to talk about two because I'm going to do that, Phil. Just real quick. The Jets, Robert Saleh. I really liked how their defense looked. I know that's his type of thing. Coming over from the 49ers. Started, they just had no talent. They started getting some. All of a sudden, everything kind of starts falling together. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers does to that team, like you guys were saying. No, I hate Hackett, but this is a team that we can talk about jumping tiers next year. We might be talking a little higher about them. I kind of hope so. I kind of like the whole Aaron Rodgers drama, Hard Knocks, those two, I guess. But Phil, nothing on the Commanders, nothing your Bieniemy crush. How did they not hit the top 18?
So listen, Ron Rivera is a terrible coach. I don't like Ron Rivera at all. Jack Del Rio, I think he's a fine defensive coordinator, and I absolutely love their defensive front. However, Eric Bieniemy, I think he's going to be great, but you can't overcome, it's like you have Mike McCarthy running the things. Kellen Moore couldn't overcome Mike McCarthy. Eric Bieniemy is going to help the Commanders, and he's going to help himself get a job, but he's not going to overcome and take them to the well, they might be a borderline playoff team with how bad the NFC is. But that's why I didn't say anything on that.
Yeah, but is Bieniemy going to be our lovely guy? Is he going to be Matt Nagy? Which is, hey, sorry, just the same way that Aaron Rodgers covered up for Hackett, Andy Reid's covered up for you. Matt Nagy goes to the Chicago Bears, has one fantastic season, and then completely craps the bed for the rest of the 4 years because his offense is atrocious.
Or he could be Doug Peterson and look great.
Is that Andy Reid too?
Yep. That was
okay.
That was
that's
the
fair. That's a counterpoint.
that was the
That's
OC before Nagy. I think Nagy was the QB coach. Peterson was the OC. Reid was the head coach. So I believe in that chain.
Peterson
Nagy,
Peterson had background though. Peterson has a much better pedigree than Bieniemy does. Bieniemy kind of grew up in that system and has never had this level of responsibility. No, did Nagy do the same?
I don't know.
Because Nagy's back.
I was going to say, I liked Nagy as an offensive coordinator, and then he did have a good year with Mitch Trubisky. Now, he didn't do anything after that. After that year, he was one of the worst coaches I've ever seen. However, he did have one good year. So, I don't know how it's going to go 1 year removed. Connor, is there any coaching staff you want to mention? I do have one more after you, though.
I hate the Falcons. I hate Arthur Smith. I mean,
Arthur Smith, Matt Canada. Who you taking to call your plays?
Oh man, I'll take myself and Ken Call, please, for 500. Anyways,
that's a top 5 team right there.
Yes, I would say we'd have Madden on every game, and I'd just say, listen, NFL. Actually, we'd have NFL Street on there. NFL Street 2. That's would be our playbook. This guy has to be gone after this year. I'm serious. They're going to wipe the clean slate. They're going to say, hey, listen, guy wasn't smart enough to go and get Lamar Jackson and overpay for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Oh, in that division, you would literally run it for the next 5 years. And he was like, Desmond Ridder. Okay. And then they also had the opportunity to get Kyler. So there was some backdoor kind of deals going on, them trying to get Kyler Murray. Failed on that one. They got Bijan, which is fantastic for them. He's going to fit like a glove for them. But this is the NFL. This is the NFL. They're going to be another 500 team. They're going to get smoked in the playoffs. I don't know anything. I mean, they made some moves in the offseason for their defense. I don't know anything about this Nielsen guy. They got 2 good corners now. Kuda came over, and then they've got Terrell. But what else? I don't know. And you're going to run the ball 50, 60% of the time in a pass-happy league. Come on. With Desmond Ridder. Like, if you're going to run that offense.
And 2 top 10 picks at receiver. Drives me nuts.
I don't know, man. The best case scenario is it's Desmond Ritter is, man, I'm trying to make an actual legitimate comparable off the dome. Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's best year. Seriously,
That is the
that's
best case, which is sad.
That's the
But
best
that
case
was really
scenario.
good, actually. Like Tannehill had
Because
some really good years.
Yeah, and it was he made Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator with it. So that is the best case scenario. And I'm trying to even remember. That's the conversation I was having with my brother today. Was I was trying to remember the best wide receiver in those offenses, and I couldn't off the top of my head. You guys remember?
It's AJ Brown.
Okay. What? But I'm thinking like even AJ Brown had question marks on like, can Tannehill support one wide receiver? Mm-hmm. Yes, he can definitely do one, but you hope that if this would not be a problem, I would not be as upset about Burks and Hopkins if this was basically any pass happy team.
Yep,
I would not be. And you had somebody with a history that could support two wide receivers. I just don't see it.
Nuke might not get 120 targets this year, which is like sad.
Which is crazy. He should. You should make the case that Drake London, back to Arthur Smith, Drake London should have 120, 130 targets. Kyle Pitts should have at least 100. And then you should have Bijan have 70 or 80 minimum. And then he should touch the ball 20 times a game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that happens this year because of, RPOs and read option.
You got to get Cordero Patterson in the game. Everyone's always talking about Cordero Patterson.
Supposedly, by the way, he's going to catch more passes. They're going to move him into the slot a little bit, which is kind of nice.
There's only 10 available passes to catch a game.
Dude, is that what the number was? That might have been the number. I think that's actually a good point. It was they won. They were doing that quarterback show, that Netflix show. Have you guys seen that one yet?
I haven't watched it yet.
So they were following Marcus Mariota. By the way, spoiler alert, they only followed him for the first 4 episodes because he basically left the team.
He just walked away, yeah.
Yeah, he walked away. And they stopped following him, and then they just focused on Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes. He was like that NFC Player of the Week. I think that his stat line was like 15 of 17. 17 passes, Phil, Ken.
I remember him being valuable for like running for like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or something stupid.
In 2022, 17 passes in an NFL game.
All right.
What are you doing?
Now our closing remarks, because we've been talking way too long.
Shut
Houston
up,
Texans.
Ken. Oh, shut up, Phil. Sorry, Ken. I meant Phil.
Houston Texans are the coaching staff to watch. I think that team reminds me of the Giants last year. There's absolutely nothing there. And I like all their coaches. I think they all have upside. They're all rookies. And D'Amico Ryans is going to bring some toughness. If they go 7, maybe 8 wins, I'm happy with that team and they play tough. They're going to be the Lions of the AFC. What do you guys think of kind of like that Texans coaching staff? I just like all the guys they have and the philosophy they're bringing in.
Kind of like the opposite of the Patriots. I like the 49ers like offshoot coaches. Like I like Saleh, I like Ryans. So let's see what happens.
Connor, you were the big D'Amico Ryans fan, I think.
I was a big D'Amico Ryans fan. I don't know the other 2 names.
Bobby Slovic was their was the passing game coordinator for the 49ers. Matt Burke is ironically the name of someone Ken and I went to high school with.
Oh.
He is not that guy. No. They just have the exact same name. Spelled exactly the same. Not the same person.
Good juju. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's gonna be tough sledding. They have an easy division, but they have no wide receivers. CJ Stroud gets nothing.
Nico Collins, baby. I just read something saying he's the dude. And by he's
Bobby
the dude,
Trees
I mean
has a better chance of getting all those passes.
I was about
30-year-old Bobby Trees.
I was about to say, yeah, he's the dude in the Texans, which means like 5 catches for 50 yards is a ceiling. So you don't like the Texans. You're going to be wrong. Texans and Browns, man. I'm going to shock the nation.
Huge difference between A, your division, and B, and B, what conference you're in. You might get 8 wins, but then you're going to get smoked in the playoffs.
Yeah, but you know what? The coaching staff
Get
are
in
going
the
to look
playoffs,
good.
baby. Hell yeah. Extra
give
games.
someone else some of those playoff wins so that Ken can use that stat more.
Nice, dude. Here's your division.
31-13 is a big deal.
Artie Smith. He's a good one. Dennis Allen. That's a good one. Who else is there? Todd Bowles. Todd, too smart for his britches, can't coach an offense. Bowles. There you go. Good luck. Not a bad
All right,
division.
that's all. We're good, right? Anything else from anyone? What a way to
I
say
was
it.
gonna
What a
say,
way to tail off.
I hate that Todd Bowles is still the head coach of the Buccaneers. Like, Bruce Arians, great. That he steps in and, like, it's a different team. He's never been successful as a coach.
Todd Bowles
I'm
is
all out
brilliant.
on him.
He just needs to go back to coaching.
I love him. Yes, I love him as a DC. I hate him as a
Byron
head
Leftwich
coach.
should have been the head coach of this team.
Absolutely.
All right, with that, we'll see you guys. Thanks for listening.